Europe in the late 18th century was a powder keg awaiting a spark. The continent was rife with political tension, economic instability, and social unrest. Monarchies and empires were struggling to maintain control over their territories, and the common people were growing increasingly discontented with their rulers. The French Revolution had ignited the flames of change, but also unleashed chaos and instability. The storming of the Bastille in 1789 marked the beginning of a decade of turmoil, as revolutionary fervor swept through France, toppling the monarchy and leading to the rise of radical factions. The streets of Paris and other cities became battlegrounds, with citizens fighting for their vision of a new France. From this maelstrom emerged a young Corsican artillery officer, Napoleon Bonaparte. Born in 1769 on the island of Corsica, Napoleon was a product of both French and Italian influences. His early life was marked by a fierce determination to rise above his modest beginnings, and he quickly distinguished himself as a talented and ambitious military leader. Ambitious, shrewd, and a brilliant military strategist, Napoleon rapidly climbed the ranks of the French army. His keen intellect and unyielding drive set him apart from his peers. He was known for his ability to inspire his troops and for his innovative tactics on the battlefield. Napoleon's rise was meteoric, and he soon found himself in command of significant military forces. His early campaigns in Italy showcased his tactical genius, securing victory after victory against Austria. These battles were not just military triumphs, they were also political statements demonstrating the strength and resolve of the new French Republic. Napoleon's successes in Italy earned him the admiration of his soldiers and the respect of his superiors. These triumphs made him a national hero in France, paving the way for his seizure of power in a coup d'état in 1799. The French people, weary of the ongoing instability and yearning for strong leadership, saw in Napoleon a figure who could restore order and bring glory to the nation. His return to France was met with widespread acclaim and celebration. At 30 years old, Napoleon Bonaparte became first consul of France, effectively ending the French Revolution and ushering in a new era. His ascent to power marked the beginning of the Napoleonic era, a period characterized by significant political, social, and military changes. As first consul, Napoleon implemented reforms that stabilized the French economy, strengthened the central government, and laid the groundwork for his future ambitions. His leadership would soon extend beyond France, reshaping the map of Europe and leaving an indelible mark on history. Napoleon consolidated his power and set about reforming France. He introduced the Napoleonic Code, a comprehensive legal system that modernized French law and had a lasting impact across Europe. This code emphasized meritocracy, religious tolerance, and equality before the law, principles that resonated far beyond France's borders. On the battlefields of Europe, the French army under Napoleon's leadership proved unstoppable. The Battle of Marengo in 1800, again against Austria, solidified French control of northern Italy. With each victory, Napoleon's reputation as a military genius grew, striking fear into the hearts of monarchs across Europe. The Battle of Austerlitz, fought on December 2, 1805, stands as a testament to Napoleon's military genius. Facing a larger combined force of Austrians and Russians, Napoleon used cunning tactics and exploited the overconfidence of his enemies to achieve a decisive victory. Austerlitz humbled Austria and Russia, forcing them to make peace with France on Napoleon's terms. It solidified Napoleon's control over Central Europe and cemented his image as the most formidable military leader of his era. By 1810, Napoleon's empire had reached its greatest extent. From the Iberian Peninsula to the borders of Russia, Napoleon's influence was paramount. He had installed his relatives on the thrones of conquered nations, spreading the ideals of the French Revolution, albeit under the banner of his own rule. However, this expansion came at a cost. The constant warfare drained France's resources and manpower, and Napoleon's ambition alienated former allies. The seeds of discontent were sown, setting the stage for future conflicts. Section 5, the Spanish Ulcer, a turning point. The Spanish War of Independence, which lasted from 1808 to 1814, proved to be a major turning point in Napoleon's fortunes. Napoleon's attempt to install his brother Joseph on the Spanish throne ignited a fierce resistance movement fueled by Spanish nationalism and aided by Britain. This Spanish ulcer, as Napoleon called it, tied down large numbers of French troops, draining resources and manpower. It also demonstrated the limits of Napoleon's power and emboldened his enemies, showcasing the effectiveness of guerrilla warfare against his armies. Section 6. The Bear Awakens, Napoleon's disastrous Russian campaign. In 1812, Napoleon embarked on his most ambitious and disastrous campaign, the invasion of Russia. Enraged by Russia's defiance of his continental system, a blockade designed to cripple Britain's economy, Napoleon led a massive army into the vast expanse of Russia. The Russians, under General Kutuzov, employed a scorched earth policy, retreating and burning crops and villages in their wake. The French army, weakened by attrition, disease, and the harsh Russian winter, finally reached a deserted and burning Moscow. The lack of supplies and the approaching winter forced Napoleon into a disastrous retreat. Section 7. The Walls Close In. The Sixth Coalition and the Abdication of an Emperor. This chapter delves into the dramatic and tumultuous events that led to the downfall of one of history's most iconic figures, Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon's disastrous Russian campaign had emboldened his enemies. The harsh winter and the relentless Russian tactics decimated his Grande Armée, leaving it a shadow of its former self. The once invincible force was now struggling to survive, retreating through the unforgiving snow and ice. Sensing an opportunity, Great Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden formed the Sixth Coalition, uniting against their common foe. These nations, each with their own grievances and ambitions, saw a chance to finally bring down the French emperor who had dominated Europe for over a decade. In 1813, the coalition forces clashed with Napoleon at the Battle of Leipzig, also known as the Battle of Nations. This massive engagement involved over 500,000 soldiers and was one of the largest battles in European history. The fierce fighting resulted in a decisive defeat for Napoleon, forcing him to retreat back to France. Despite a series of defensive victories on French soil, Napoleon was overwhelmed by the sheer number of his enemies. His strategic genius and the bravery of his troops could not compensate for the relentless pressure from the coalition forces, who were determined to end his reign. In 1814, Paris fell to the coalition forces, marking a significant turning point in European history. With the capital occupied and his options exhausted, Napoleon was forced to abdicate, ending his reign as Emperor of the French. This momentous event signaled the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter for Europe. Section 8, 100 Days and the Final Curtain, Waterloo and Napoleon's Last Stand. This chapter delves into the dramatic and final moments of Napoleon Bonaparte's storied career, focusing on the pivotal Battle of Waterloo. Exiled to the island of Elba, Napoleon escaped in 1815 and returned to France, rallying his supporters and reclaiming the throne for a brief period known as the 100 Days. His return was nothing short of miraculous, as he managed to gather an army and march triumphantly into Paris, reinstating himself as emperor. However, his reign was short-lived. Despite his initial success, the European powers quickly mobilized against him, determined to put an end to his ambitions once and for all. The coalition forces, led by Britain, Prussia, Austria, and Russia, were resolute in their mission to defeat Napoleon. The Duke of Wellington, commanding a British and Allied army, met Napoleon at Waterloo on June 18, 1815. The battlefield was set, and both sides prepared for what would become one of the most famous battles in history. Wellington's forces were strategically positioned, ready to counter Napoleon's tactics. In a bloody and decisive battle, Napoleon was defeated, marking the end of his reign and the Napoleonic Wars. The clash was intense, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The Prussian army, led by General Blucher, arrived just in time to support Wellington, sealing Napoleon's fate. The battlefield was left strewn with the fallen, a testament to the ferocity of the conflict. This time he was exiled to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. Far from the European continent, Napoleon spent his final years in isolation, reflecting on his meteoric rise and fall. The island became his prison, and he would never again set foot on the mainland. His legacy, however, would endure. shaping the course of history for generations to come. Section 9, the Congress of Vienna, redrawing the map of Europe. Following Napoleon's defeat, the victorious powers met at the Congress of Vienna to restore order and redraw the map of Europe. Their aim was to prevent another Napoleon from rising to power and to maintain a balance of power among the European nations. The Congress of Vienna restored many of the pre-Napoleonic dynasties and redrew national boundaries, aiming to create a lasting peace. However, their decisions also sowed the seeds for future conflict, particularly by suppressing nationalist movements that would later emerge. Section 10. Napoleon's enduring legacy from revolution to reform. Napoleon Bonaparte's impact on Europe extends far beyond his military conquests. His Napoleonic Code influenced legal systems across Europe, promoting equality before the law and shaping modern legal thought. His wars, while devastating, also contributed to the spread of revolutionary ideals, such as nationalism and liberalism across Europe. Napoleon's legacy remains complex and contested, a testament to the enduring impact of this enigmatic figure on the course of European history.